Good evening. I'm Sandy Thomson, the host of Life Ahead, our show here tonight. And I want to invite you to stay with us here for the next half hour. Not even any commercials, but we have an amazing topic. We have never, in all the years that I've been doing this, addressed this topic. But it's something that I think is very important for you to be aware of. I have an attorney here with us tonight. We're going to be talking about elder abuse, whether it's in your family or a neighbor or somewhere else, church, somewhere where you might notice something. We're going to tell you what you can do about that and what are some things that you should look for. Well, if you've watched us regularly, you know this young man. This is Troy Kiefer. Troy, nice to have you with us again. You were here a couple weeks ago, and yes. I was really excited about this topic, Troy, when you approached us with that. Again, I think very important. And we're going to be taking your questions as well. It's your show, by the way. I just sit here and ask a few questions until you call us. 969-2720 is our phone number, 969-2720. All right, let's start out, Troy, by talking about the most common forms of elder abuse. I know they go all over the board, but what are the most common, would you say?
Yeah, you're right. They're all over the board, and you know, this is a very important topic, and so I really hope to get as much information out as possible. Yeah. So some of the most common forms, of course, physical abuse. I mean, that's the one that immediately comes to mind. Yeah. Financial abuse and exploitation, so taking advantage of an elderly person's income or their savings. Neglect, actually,
okay, that's
is a big one.
Abuse, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you are meant to be taking care of someone who is elderly, yeah, and you don't do that, and as a result, their health goes down, or they're living in very poor conditions, that is certainly abuse as well.
Okay, let's go back to physical abuse, which, you know, we mentioned is one of the most common forms. How can you recognize physical abuse if you're maybe at Thanksgiving dinner or something with relatives you haven't seen for a long time, or you're visiting grandma at the nursing home? What should you look for?
Well, I think the first indicators, and I think it's probably common with all forms of elder abuse, would be change in personality, change in demeanor. If an elderly person who is previously very boisterous or outgoing becomes withdrawn, focuses, seems meek or timid when that's normally not their personality, that's a big tell. And of course, with financial abuse, with physical abuse, you're going to be looking for bruises, sores, even broken bones. Oh, it
just makes me sad to think of it. Yeah. And you talked about a difference in demeanor. If they've experienced physical abuse, they might be very timid and show that to you physically. I mean, jerking away if somebody tries to touch them or something. And it's like, wonder what that's about.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, it can even rise to the level of having PTSD.
Really?
Yeah, post-traumatic or PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, just like anyone could in an abusive situation. And what's so sad about it, and why I find this topic so particularly important, is these folks are facing some very difficult times, probably the most difficult times in their entire lives.
I would think so, yeah.
When they are least able to handle it, because they are older, they're less able to physically protect themselves. Yeah. Maybe mentally they're starting to have a little decline, and they feel like maybe they're relying on their abuser. If they speak up and tell their abuser, report their abuser, well, who's going to take care of them at all then? So
they could be afraid of the abuser, not just for the abuse, but what might happen if they do report it, you're saying?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. This is just so hard, when I think about people being abused. What type of situations would you say, Troy? Are these a lot of abuse cases in the home, with the people at home, or in a nursing home, or where are they the most common?
Yeah. Well, I have not seen the statistics,
Yeah.
but physical abuse is primarily by family members.
All right.
So it typically happens within the home. Financial abuse, of course, is a little bit different, but home would be the primary area to watch out for.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. We have a phone call. Anthony, thank you so much for watching us here on Life Ahead. And what's your question, Anthony, for Troy tonight?
I was just wondering, it seems like a lot of those nursing homes, those staff, they go in and they act all friendly and smile, but behind closed doors, they're treating the people bad, and these elderly people can't really fight themselves. And it's just, what can they do to make sure that the workers are treating them fair? You know, I've seen a lot of those elderly just get intimidated and beat down, and then they're scared to say anything. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Anthony, and I appreciate that question. I think a lot of people are wondering the same thing. I've heard that mentioned before. How would you know if someone's being abused in a nursing home, and what can you do if your aunt or grandmother or whomever is the one there that you think is being abused? What can you do?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question, Anthony. There are a couple of things that can be done.
Okay.
So first of all, there is an ombudsman program, and
Okay.
if you just search the internet for that, they are tasked with looking into those types of situations and guiding people who believe they've been abused in a nursing home or long-term care
Right,
facility.
whether it's physical or financial or anything. An ombudsman, in my understanding, is they're not on anybody's side. They're not on the nursing home side. They're on the side of the patient. They're trying to find out what's going on and investigate it.
Right, they're an advocate for the patient, and they want to find the truth.
Yeah.
And of course, they're not like an attorney where they're going to, aggressively advocate for someone, but
Yeah.
they're going to honestly investigate, and then determine. Yeah, they have some authority to look into the situation and determine if anything
Change it,
actually
hopefully.
happened. Right.
You know, Troy, I'm just thinking. I think we talked about this once on the air, and I believe that nursing homes are required to list the name and phone number of their ombudsman, like at the main desk or receptionist or someplace. So, you can get access to that if you ask.
Yes, absolutely, and they are required to give them access then to the facility to
Okay.
talk to residents.
There is an agency called Adult Protective Services, and we're going to talk about that a little bit here. But I want you to get a pencil out because we're going to give you their phone number where you can report things as well. What is the Adult Protective Service, Troy?
Adult Protective Service is created by Indiana statute.
Okay.
And their whole goal is to investigate elder abuse.
Oh, okay.
And they work out of county prosecutor offices, and they are broken up into different units throughout the state. Here in Allen County, Adult Protective Services, of course, covers Allen County and the surrounding counties.
Is there an office here in Fort Wayne?
Yes, they're in with the prosecutor's office.
Oh, okay. And then they serve Allen County and surrounding counties, you say?
Right.
Okay.
More or less. I don't have the exact
Okay.
geographic area, but more or less around Allen County, and then
Well, it's a good beginning of where to
Yes.
look. And let me show you that phone number. It's 1-800, by the way, 1-800-992-6978. And I'll give you that number again here in just a little while. Can they do anything once you've reported something? Adult Protective Services, do you know?
Well, I think the first thing to remember about Adult Protective Services is they are not a first responder agency.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Like the police or the fire department. So if there is an immediate danger, someone's being abused and they're immediately hurt or need medical attention, then calling 911 would be the first thing.
Okay.
However, if you suspect abuse, you have some reason to think that something is going on and it's not an immediate danger, then Adult Protective Services would be the first place to call. You could also contact a police agency,
Okay.
and they could reach out to Adult Protective Services as well.
For you.
Right.
I'm curious about this because I think some people would want to know, can you report somebody anonymously? I mean, say you're suspecting there's some abuse going on next door, in the house next door, but you don't want them to know you've reported it to them. Can you do that? Do you know?
Well, that's a good question, and I don't 100% know the answer to that. I suspect that you can.
Okay.
The Indiana state law is a must report law.
Okay.
So in Indiana, if you know of abuse or you even suspect abuse, by law you're required to notify either the police or Adult Protective Services.
Oh, okay. All right. That
And
makes sense.
if you don't do that, there is a criminal penalty associated with that. It's
to the person that's not reporting it.
right.
Oh,
Right.
all
That's
the more reason to be on top of it.
Yeah, a Class B misdemeanor could be a year in jail and
Wow.
a $1,000 fine. So
Everybody's on the phone right now reporting somebody,
I hope
think,
so.
Troy. You know what I want to go back to, Troy, because I think it's really important, is financial abuse. I've heard that happens a lot. And what I've heard, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is that if somebody has dementia, Alzheimer's or something, and they're having a little difficulty processing things or keeping their finances, somebody might take advantage of them. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. And this is probably the type of abuse that I run into most often.
Oh, really?
Just in my particular field.
Yeah.
And it's really probably the most diverse of the types of abuse an elderly person can suffer. Number one, because they're very vulnerable to people, family members, who have direct access to them, access to their bank accounts,
Yeah.
access to their assets. But in addition to that, in this information age, anyone could easily call up an elderly person, befriend them, get their confidence, and request money. And that's where you hear stories of elderly people going into banks and withdrawing tens of thousands of dollars and wiring those things to people overseas even.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And in my experiences, banks are very good at
recognizing
that. And they will apply the brakes to that a little bit if they suspect elder
And call
abuse.
somebody in the family or whatever to say, hey, could this possibly be true, kind of thing. Well,
Right,
and we've had
right.
Better Business Bureau here before, and they've talked about the huge number of scams that elderly people are subjected to. And again, I think a lot of it goes back to, a decade or a couple of decades ago, we grew up trusting everybody. So if somebody calls you, and I got a call the other day, I won $43 million.
Oh, congratulations.
I did, in a sweepstakes.
Yeah.
And they gave me the claim number. I think I had to give my social security number, my mother's maiden, just a few little things like that.
Minor details.
Yeah, but they were most congratulatory.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But somebody might believe that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then what do you do? What recourse do you have?
In those cases, unfortunately, it's very difficult to recover those funds. Number one, usually the person, once they've figured out they've been scammed, they're very embarrassed by that.
Sure.
So they're not likely to report it or even tell family members. But the best thing to do would be to notify the police department, the sheriff's department, and let them know.
And Better Business Bureau, because they do, I think, put out on their website, and maybe the police do too, what are, I see on Facebook sometimes some of the popular, most common scams that they're alerting people to be aware of, like phone calls from the IRS that say you still owe such and such money and send it here. The IRS does not call you, by the way, but they'll alert people to possible scams going around.
Yeah, and what I also see is a driver of this is just loneliness.
Oh, yeah.
A widow or a widower has all day to sit at home and think, and they get somebody contact them through the internet or the telephone, and just contacting them makes them feel good, and they want to do something nice for that person. So if they ask for money, they're more likely to provide that. So it's a real problem.
And the scammers know that. They know exactly what words to use, how to get to you emotionally. I'll share, Troy, another scam that I had. I guess maybe I'm just vulnerable.
You seem to be targeted.
I don't know. Apparently I am. This was several years ago, but it was so funny. The phone rang, and I didn't recognize the number, but for some reason I answered it. Usually I don't if I don't know the number. And some, like a young man voice said, "Grandma." And, well, to begin with, I have 2 grandchildren. Neither call me Grandma. They call me Grams. So right there, I was like, okay, let's see what this is about. So I just played along. And I said, yeah, what's up? And he said, I need your help. And I said, well, which grandchild are you? And again, I have 2. One's a boy, one's a girl. And he said, I'm the grandson. And I said, oh, okay, which one? And he said, the oldest one. Okay, all right. And I said, oh, well, how can I help you? And he said, well, I'm at the police station. I made a mistake, and I don't know what he said he did, but he needed $10,000 by 5 o'clock to get out of jail. Please help me, Grandma, you know. And I said, well, I just can't do that. You know I love you, but I just can't. I can't do that. And he said, well, just a minute. And about 30 seconds went by, and he said, well, I just talked to him, and they said if you give me $2,500, they'll let me out by 5 o'clock.
A deal,
Yeah. Well, I said, I love you, but I'm sorry, I just can't do that. You'll have to call your other grandma, I guess. Okay, let's talk about, we have another phone call here. This is from James, and James says this. Let me take a look here at the prompter. James says, is there a difference between neglect and abuse? Very good question. Very good question, James. What is the answer to that, Troy?
Yeah, that is a good question. Neglect is a form of abuse. So it's one and the same. And a person doesn't have to be struck, or they don't have to have money stolen in order to be abused. So if a person is relying on you to provide for their day-to-day care, provide food, pay bills, utilities, just look out for their overall well-being, and you're
whether
not
or
doing
not they're
that.
their power of attorney or anything. I mean, if it's just what they're supposed to do, or their family's given them that responsibility.
Well, often it's power of attorney or guardian.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Yeah. So, or otherwise they're under their care. Oftentimes it's someone who's living in the house with them.
What about home health care? Is that a pretty trustworthy situation?
We work with a lot of home health care agencies, and they're all the ones that I'm familiar with are very good.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't mean that there can't be some bad apples.
Yeah.
And this is where technology may actually come in to help. And with the way internet cameras and security cameras are now, it is possible to have multiple cameras in a house, so the family can just keep an eye on things. And of course, you want to make sure that the elderly person knows about that. You can't, I wouldn't sneak those in without them knowing, because there are privacy concerns. But it is not a bad idea to have cameras, and so that the home health workers know that as well.
Yeah, a lot of people have those for, like, just if they're going to have babysitters. So it's not an uncommon thing at all anymore. And, you know, I'll say I did some work for a few years with home health care, some volunteer work, and they receive extensive training. And they're vetted, and I mean, it's, you know, it was pretty legitimate, so I had respect for that. Okay, let's talk about Indiana law. Does that protect people at all from elder abuse?
It really tries hard to. I think I mentioned that there is a duty for someone, if you know, or even if you should know that there's abuse going on, that you're to report that to Adult Protective Services or a law enforcement agency. And it's also good to know, yeah, you have that duty, but there's also a safe harbor. So if you report that because you honestly thought that there was abuse occurring, you are exempt from any liability, civil or criminal, that may arise because of your report. So there really is the idea that you want people to over-report as opposed to under-report.
Got it. I got it. And that makes a lot of sense. Once again, I'm going to give you that phone number for Adult Protective Services. And again, as Troy mentioned, if you notice any abuse, whether it's within your family or neighborhood or assisted living, anything like that, you can report that to 1-800-992-6978. 1-800-992-6978. Or just get on your smartphone or your computer and Google Adult Protective Services, and you'll find that information. We have a question coming in from Nyla, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I do have a question here in terms of legalities. You talked about Indiana law and whatever. Are there some cases that are more challenging to prosecute?
Well, and yes, and there is a particular issue with the elderly because sometimes it's difficult for them to present evidence to say what actually happened to them. They're not always the best witnesses. And sometimes they even want to protect the person that is abusing them because, once again, they may not know what's going to happen to them after, if that person no longer takes care of them. So it is particularly difficult to prosecute this.
What's usually the in scenario? A fine, jail time? I mean, if somebody was prosecuted, what would typically happen?
Well, it really depends on
how severe
the abuse is. Yeah, financial abuse is going to have is defined as a certain crime and is going to have a certain penalty.
Yeah.
All the way up to physical abuse and battery, and that's going to have a much different penalty and jail time as opposed to something that isn't physical.
Got that. Okay, Nyla called in, and this is kind of a specific question. We'll see how we can do with this here, Troy. If an elder gets a urinary tract infection while receiving care, could that be considered an abuse or neglect?
That is so case specific.
Yeah, it is.
That I think that alone is probably not going to amount to neglect. In working with a lot of elderly people, a lot of them just get urinary tract infections as a matter of course. I think you would need something else in addition to that,
or
to support
a reason why, maybe.
Yeah. Right. Are they not being giving the proper medication? Are they not
getting bathed or sanitary reasons?
Yep. Do they not have proper facilities to use the restroom? And once again, are they not bathing?
Yeah.
So I think that would be one piece, but I think there'd probably need to be a lot more to go into that.
Yeah, I would guess so too. But Nyla, thank you so much for calling with that question. And I might also mention, Troy talked about it earlier, if you're talking about someone that might be in a nursing home or in assisted living, look for the ombudsman. Again, ombudsman, OMBUD. S-M-A-N, something like that.
S-O-N,
Is that right? Ombudsman. You can ask at the nursing home, and they'll give you a name and a phone number where you can contact that person, and they could do some research maybe for you in terms of the care of that person. Okay, all right, we've talked about legal prosecution. What about protective orders? Do you find that you need to get protective orders for elders? People sometimes?
That does happen on occasion, and those are usually cases where abuse has already been discovered.
Oh, okay.
And you want to make sure that if the person is not prosecuted and is not physically separated from the elderly person, that they can't return and continue that abuse. So protective orders are an option, and that is something that we assist with from time to time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, unfortunately, our time has gone so fast. Will you come back and let's talk about this again?
Oh, I would love to.
I have so many questions, and so do our viewers, I know, that we haven't gotten to. And it's such an important topic, again, that we've not addressed before here on our show. So I'd like to pursue that. Troy, thank you for your information.
Oh, well, thank you for helping getting the word out.
All right. And for the rest of you, watch us next Wednesday night at 7:30. We'll be right here with another guest and another topic. And you will see Troy again talking about this topic. I'm Sandy Thomson. Have a great night. Stay healthy and stay safe.
The preceding program on PBS Fort Wayne was made possible in part by
Beers Mallers, elder law attorneys providing information on legal matters of guardianship and financial issues relating to nursing home care. Beers Mallers attorneys can also assist with Medicaid requirements and help navigate difficult family situations. Offices in Fort Wayne, LaGrange, Warsaw, and online at beersmallers.com.